These are the X-Raypad Obsidian skates, one of if not the most popular aftermarket skates that are available on the market. These skates are designed to be a control-focused skate that offer a smooth, consistent, controlled glide with high durability on both fabric and glass pads. The Obsidian skates along with the Jade skates are the foundation of X-Raypad skate lineups, and since their release they've become the skate of choice for gamers wanting a more controlled experience, but also those who want a more durable, long-lasting skate. And just like the Jade skates, the Obsidians also come in a variety of shapes and sizes, which makes them universally compatible with almost every mouse available on the market, but they also have the added benefit of being compatible with almost every single pad type, as their more durable material makes them ideal for not only fabric pads, but also hard pads like glass. Due to the Obsidian's universal mouse and mousepad compatibility, and of course their controlled performance profile, the Obsidian skates have become so popular they're one of the stock skate options for Optimum Tech's Zero Mouse. So in today's video, we're going to be breaking down all the unique traits of the X-Raypad Obsidian skates, talk more in depth about their performance profiles, their pad compatibility, reusability, and much more. But before we get started, if you enjoy these breakdown videos and want to see more videos like this, be sure to leave a like on this video and get subscribed to the official X-Raypad YouTube channel. We'll be doing more breakdown videos like this for all current and future X-Raypad products, including the Obsidian Air series skates, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss any future X-Raypad content. Starting off, let's talk about pricing and unboxing. All versions of the Obsidian skates, regardless of their shape or size, retail for $9.99 USD. The dot skate versions will include 40 dot skates, all of which are the same size. The donut skates versions of the Obsidians will include 32 donut skates, all of which are the same size as well. And the full-size skate replacement versions of the Obsidians, regardless of the type you get, will include 2 sets of full-size skates. And as usual for X-Raypad skates, all versions of the Obsidians will include 2 alcohol wipes and 2 adhesive removal wipes. Depending on what batch version of the Obsidians you get, the version with the updated packaging will include a small plastic removal tool, but the older batch versions with the black packaging will not include this tool. In terms of installation, since the Obsidian skates are made out of hardened PTFE instead of non-hardened PTFE, they are fully reusable, so you don't need to be as careful installing them as you would be with single-use skates like the X-Raypad Jade skates. But regardless of their more reusable nature, we do recommend referencing the official X-Raypad skate installation guide prior to installing any versions of the Obsidian skates, as the guide shows you how to properly remove your old skates and clean any adhesive residue or debris left behind by them, as well as how to properly install and position the full-size donut and dot versions of all of X-Raypad skate types to ensure the skates perform consistently. So if you would like to reference that video when you install your skates, please refer to the video, which will be linked down in the video description or on screen here. In terms of dimensions and shaping for the various types of the Obsidian skates, just like the various types of the Jade skates, the full-size versions will be the same size as your mouse's current skates, so there won't be any significant changes in terms of dimensions, but their shaping will be slightly different than a mouse's stock skates, as the full-size Obsidians, just like the full-size Jade skates, are designed to be completely flat with a rounded edge. This ensures that the skates feel smooth when gliding and prevents that scratchy feeling you can feel from skates that have a non-rounded edge, such as many mice's stock skates. The donut versions of the Obsidian skates have the same dimensions as all the other X-Raypad donut skates, like the Jade donuts, measuring 9.5 by 0.8 millimeters with a 4.3 by 0.6 millimeter central dot. They have the same shape with that thicker outer skate with a slight roundness to it, and the same removable, smaller, shorter central dot skate that has a non-rounded edge. The Obsidian donuts are semi-universal as they're fully compatible with mice with larger skate cutouts, but some mice with thinner skate cutouts can accommodate their 9.5 millimeter diameter, so be sure to measure your mouse's skate cutout to make sure they're at least 9.5 millimeters or wider to ensure compatibility with the donut versions of the Obsidian skates, and of course the other versions of X-Raypad donut skates. And lastly, we have the dot version of the Obsidian skates, which are, unsurprisingly, the exact same dimensions as X-Raypad other dot skates, measuring 6.5 by 0.8 millimeters. They also have the same cylindrical shaping with that slightly rounded top that we saw on the Jade skates and most of the other X-Raypad dot skates. Now, due to their smaller dimensions, the dot versions are the most universal type of the Obsidian skates, being usable on almost every single mouse on the market, as their 6.5 millimeter diameter fits comfortably inside almost all mice's skate cutouts. Now, before I move on, I wanted to quickly talk about the donut skate's central dot. While you can remove the central dot from the donut skate, since it's shorter than the outer ring skate and has a non-rounded edge, we don't recommend using them as microdots or stabilizers due to their sharp non-rounded edge, as the mini dots feel very scratchy when they're used on fabric pads. We generally recommend leaving the central dot skate installed, but you can remove it if you want. The only downside to this is that the center of the donut skate might collect dust and debris over time, but keeping or removing the central dot skate installed is completely up to personal preference, and it won't affect the performance of the donut skates either way. In terms of skate material, as I mentioned earlier, the Obsidian skates are made out of hardened PTFE. Technically speaking, this is the same 100% PTFE material that we saw used for the Jade skates, but it's undergone a hardening process that makes the material more durable and also increases its friction coefficients. The Obsidian skates also have a unique trait of having their surface covered with a finely frosted texturing. So in addition to the hardened material, the frosted texture further increases the Obsidian skates' friction coefficients, and it gives the skates their smooth, consistent, and controlled glide, while the hardened material gives the skates their higher durability. But even though the Obsidian skates material has been hardened, it's still a decently quiet skate in terms of audio feedback. They will be slightly louder than the Jades when used on hard pads, but the level of audio feedback here on the Obsidians compared to the Jade skates on fabric pads is pretty much 1-for-1. Next, let's talk about the Obsidian's Mousepad compatibility. As I mentioned earlier, the Obsidian skates are designed for use on not only fabric pads but also hard pads such as glass, but unlike the Jade skates, they can't be used on plastic pads as their hardened material can damage that pad type. And unlike the Jade skates, which were usable on glass just at the cost of the skate's lifespan, the Obsidian skates are fully compatible with all hard pad types, as their hardened PTFE material prevents them from wearing too quickly. But as we've seen with other types of X-Raypad skates, some of the Obsidian skate shapes do have some compatibility issues with some pad types. For most versions of the full-size Obsidian skates, they'll be compatible with extra soft, soft, medium, and hard firmness mouse pads and all hard pad types, but some smaller surface area stock skates, such as the full-size skates for a Ponage Stormbreaker for example, might have too small of a surface area to be compatible with extra soft and soft pads, so keep that in mind if you have a mouse with a smaller surface area skate and you plan on getting the full-size stock replacement versions of the Obsidians. For the donut versions of the Obsidian skates, they're fully compatible with extra soft, soft, medium, and hard firmness pads, as their shaping and larger surface area prevents them from bottoming out when pressure is applied to them. And of course, they'll be usable with all types of hard pads as well. For the dot versions of the Obsidian skates, due to their smaller surface area, they are not compatible with extra soft and soft firmness mouse pads, as their smaller surface area causes them to bottom out when pressure is applied to them, so they're best suited for medium and hard firmness fabric pads, and just like all the other versions of the Obsidian skates, the dots are fully compatible with hard pads. Now before we talk about the Obsidian skates performance profile, there is one very important thing you need to know about these skates in particular, specifically for when you use them on hard pads, as their hardened PTFE material does need to be worked into a hard pad prior to use. This is done to ensure the skates glide smoothly with consistent frictions, as the frosting texture on their surface can cause some minor inconsistencies if it's not polished off prior to use, but this only applies to your usage on hard pads. On soft pads you want the frosting, as it gives the skates their controlled feeling. You can do this by taking your fresh Obsidian skate and the hard pad you'll be using them on, and while pressing the mouse downwards into the pad, make a fast figure 8 motion for approximately 20 to 30 seconds. This will polish off the frosted texture on their surface, giving them a smoother contact area, similar to what you'd see on the Jade series skates, which will remove any inconsistencies that might be caused by said texturing. Now, working in the Obsidian skates will physically alter the skates, which means if you use the worked in skates on a fabric pad, the skates will be slightly faster since there's no texturing on them. So keep this in mind if you plan on using the Obsidians interchangeably on both fabric and glass pads, as their performance profile will slightly change due to their work-in period. But to reiterate, this work-in process only applies to the Obsidian skates when they're going to be used on hard pads. You do not need to work in the Obsidians if you plan on using them on fabric pads. In terms of the Obsidian skates performance profile, as I mentioned earlier, the Obsidian skates are designed to be a control-focused skate that deliver a smooth, consistent, and controlled glide, but just like we saw with the Jade skates, the various size and shapes do affect their respective performance profiles. Now, the full-size versions of the Obsidian skates will generally speaking be the slowest, but smaller surface area versions can perform similarly to the donuts, but it will depend on their surface area. Dots, on the other hand, will generally speaking be the fastest, and the donut skates will be a middle ground between full-size and dot skates in terms of performance. But keep in mind the number of dots and donuts you use, as well as the pad type you use, will slightly affect the Obsidian's performance profiles as well, but generally speaking, when used on fabric pads, the Obsidian skates will have a more balanced control performance profile, while on hard pads, they'll have more of a balanced performance profile. On both fabric and hard pads, the Obsidian skates are best suited for static and flicking aiming, as the Obsidian skates' higher friction coefficients give the skates a higher degree of stopping power, so stopping your mouse on the target is much easier on the Obsidians than it would be on 100% PTFE skates such as the Jades, specifically on glass pads and other hard pads, but this does come at the cost of higher initial and dynamic frictions, so your initial cursor movements and travel to the target will be slightly slower than faster skates such as the Jades. You can also use the Obsidian skates for more dynamic and tracking aiming, as the higher frictions does make tracking very consistent, but due to their higher frictions, they will be a little slower and they'll feel a little less responsive than the Jades are, specifically on fabric pads, while on hard pads the tracking and dynamic aiming is much better due to the skate's altered performance profile. It's also worth noting that on the dot versions of the Obsidian skates, you can push them into your mousepad to increase the friction slightly, making them even more consistent for static and flicking aiming. You can do the same with the Obsidian donuts to a degree, but due to their larger surface area you can't press them in as much, but their larger surface area does naturally make them a little more controlled than the dot skates, so they balance themselves out in terms of performance. And yet another benefit to the Obsidian skates is their reusability. Now, as I mentioned earlier, due to their hardened PTFE material, these skates are fully reusable, unlike the Jades, which are a single-use skate. This means you can move or adjust the position of your Obsidian skates or move them from one mouse to another very easily. The dot and donut versions of the Obsidians are the most reusable, as their smaller surface area makes it very easy to remove them. The full-size versions, depending on their surface area, might be reusable. Primarily the smaller surface area versions are the most reusable, while the larger surface area versions are reusable, but the skate itself might crease when you try to remove them. But when compared to the Jade skates, the Obsidians have significantly better reusability. Alright, and with that, that is everything you need to know about the X-Raypad Obsidian series skates. If you're looking for a control-focused skate with a balanced control performance profile on fabric pads and a balanced performance profile on glass pads or other hard pads that are great for all aim types and have great durability and reusability, the Obsidian skates are a perfect pickup. Just remember that these skates are designed for plastic pads, and when they're used on glass, they do need to be worked in prior to use to be consistent. But if you'd like to learn more about the X-Raypad Obsidian series skates or pick up a set for yourself, you can check out the full list of pre-cut skates available as well as the dots and donut versions via their product pages down in the video description. And as always, if you have any specific questions about the Obsidian skates we didn't cover in this video, feel free to ask down in the comments and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching and thank you for choosing X-Raypad. Cheers.